Lisa Martinez sat in the darkest corner of Murphy's bar, watching her beer grow warm between her hands. Across the room, her old Marine squad laughed and told stories about their latest missions. None of them looked her way. None of them talked to her anymore. 3 months ago, she had been one of them. 3 months ago, she had been a respected Marine corporal with a perfect service record. Now she was the crazy lady who told stories about fighting aliens. The mission to Kepler 442b was supposed to be routine. Her squad of 12 Marines had orders to check on the mining colony and make sure everything was running smoothly. The trip took 6 weeks through hyperspace, and Lisa remembered how excited everyone had been. It was her first off-world assignment, and she had spent hours studying the colony reports and terrain maps. Jake Morrison, her best friend since boot camp, had joked that the biggest danger would be dying of boredom. The colony was empty when they arrived. Not destroyed, not damaged, just empty. The building stood intact, the equipment was still running, but all 200 colonists had vanished. Colonel Frank Peters, their commanding officer, ordered a full search of the settlement. Lisa's team took the eastern sector, moving through prefab housing units and storage facilities. Everything looked normal except for the complete absence of people. That was when the attack came. Lisa still remembered the sound they made, a clicking noise like giant insects talking to each other. The aliens came out of nowhere, moving faster than anything she had ever seen. They were tall and thin, covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that cut through Marine body armor like it was paper. Jake Morrison was the first to die. He was checking a storage shed when 3 of the creatures surrounded him. Lisa watched his body dissolve into nothing as the alien weapons hit him. She screamed his name and opened fire with her assault rifle. The bullets bounced off their armor, but the aliens turned toward her. That was when her training kicked in. But it was training unlike anything the Marines had taught her. Lisa moved like her life depended on it. Because it did. She rolled behind cover as energy beams sizzled past her head. The aliens were fast, but they moved in patterns. They always fired 3 shots before changing position. They always approached from the same angles. Lisa started to understand their tactics, and she used that knowledge against them. She grabbed a maintenance tool from the shed, something heavy with a sharp edge. When the first alien rounded the corner, she was waiting. The tool punched through its armor where the neck met the helmet. Black blood sprayed across the wall as the creature fell. The other 2 aliens made their clicking sounds, but now they sounded angry. The fight lasted 20 minutes. Lisa used everything she could find as a weapon. She threw chemical containers that burned through their armor. She used the colony's own equipment against them, turning mining lasers into weapons. By the time it was over, 7 dead aliens lay around the storage area. Lisa was covered in their black blood and barely conscious from exhaustion. The rest of her squad found her an hour later. Private Bobby Chen and Sergeant Maria Santos were the only other survivors. They had been hit by some kind of gas weapon that made them forget most of what happened. When Lisa tried to tell them about the aliens, they looked at her like she was insane. They only remembered explosions and then waking up confused. Colonel Peters filed his report 3 days after they returned to Earth. According to the official record, the mining colony had suffered a catastrophic equipment failure that killed all the colonists. The gas leak had caused hallucinations in the Marine team, leading to friendly fire incidents that killed most of the squad. Lisa's account of alien attackers was listed as severe trauma response and recommended immediate psychological evaluation. No alien bodies were found when the investigation team returned to Kepler 442b. The area where Lisa had fought was cleaned and empty. The black blood was gone. Even the damaged equipment had been repaired or removed. It was as if the battle had never happened, except for the dead Marines and Lisa's memories. The psychological evaluation was a nightmare. Dr. Helen Brooks was a kind woman who genuinely wanted to help, but she refused to believe Lisa's story. She explained how trauma could create false memories that seemed completely real. She showed Lisa studies about soldiers who remembered battles that never happened. She prescribed medication that was supposed to help with the hallucinations. Lisa stopped taking the medication after a week. The pills made her feel slow and stupid, and she knew she needed to stay sharp. Something was coming. She could feel it in her bones. The aliens she had fought were scouts, She was sure of it. They had been testing human defenses, learning about human weapons and tactics. They would be back with more ships and better plans. But nobody would listen to her warnings. The Marine Corps processed her discharge papers with surprising speed. Her family started avoiding her calls. Her girlfriend Amy stopped believing her stories and started suggesting therapy. Even Jake Morrison's parents blamed her for their son's death, saying her crazy stories dishonored his memory. Now she sat, alone in Murphy's bar, watching her former squadmates celebrate their latest mission success. They had been promoted to fill the gaps left by the dead. They had new assignments and new responsibilities. They had moved on with their lives while she remained stuck in that moment on Kepler 442b, fighting impossible enemies that nobody believed existed. Lisa finished her beer and stood up to leave. As she walked past her old squad's table, Sergeant Carlos Rivera looked up at her. For a moment, she thought he might say something, might acknowledge her presence. Instead, he turned away and continued his conversation as if she was invisible. Outside the bar, Lisa looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were planning their next move. They knew about human weapons now. They knew about human tactics. But they had made one mistake in their scouting mission. They had let Lisa Martinez live, and she had learned about their weaknesses too. When they came back, she would be ready for them, even if she had to fight them alone. 6 months had passed since Lisa Martinez returned from Kepler 442b, and the whispers followed her everywhere she went. At the Veterans Affairs Hospital, where she attended mandatory counseling sessions, other patients would stop talking when she walked by. Some would point and whisper to their friends about the crazy Marine who thought she fought aliens. Others would just shake their heads sadly as if she was a lost cause beyond help. Dr. Helen Brooks continued to be patient and understanding during their weekly sessions. She had gentle eyes and spoke in soft tones, the kind of voice people used around broken things they were trying to fix. Every week she would ask Lisa to reconsider her memories of Kepler 442b. Every week she would explain how the human mind could create elaborate false memories to cope with trauma. Lisa tried to make her understand. She drew pictures of the alien creatures, showing their armor and weapons in exact detail. She explained their tactics and movement patterns. She demonstrated the fighting techniques she had developed during the battle. Dr. Brooks would nod and take notes, but Lisa could see in her eyes that she was just documenting symptoms of a persistent delusion. The worst part was that her own family had started to doubt her. Her mother called less frequently, and when they did talk, she would quickly change the subject away from the military or space colonies. Her father had stopped calling altogether. Her sister Rosa had visited once, bringing flowers and speaking, in the same gentle voice as Dr. Brooks. Rosa had begged Lisa to just admit that the aliens were not real so they could all move on. Amy Rodriguez, Lisa's girlfriend of 2 years, was struggling the most. She wanted to believe Lisa, wanted to support her, but the constant stress was wearing her down. Amy worked as a nurse at the local hospital, dealing with real medical emergencies every day. She found it harder and harder to come home and listen to Lisa talk about alien invasions and secret government cover-ups. The breaking point came at a ceremony honoring fallen Marines at the local memorial park. Lisa had arrived early, carrying a small metal plate with Jake Morrison's name engraved on it. She wanted to add his name to the memorial wall with the other Marines who had died in combat. It seemed like the right thing to do, a way to make sure his sacrifice was remembered properly. Captain Steve Hamilton was in charge of the ceremony. He was a young officer with a spotless uniform and political ambitions. When he saw Lisa approaching the memorial wall with her metal plate, he immediately understood what she was trying to do. He walked over quickly, his face red with embarrassment and anger. "Marine Martinez, step away from the memorial," Captain Hamilton said in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The crowd of families and veterans turned to watch. Lisa could see phone cameras starting to record the confrontation. "Sir, I just want to add Private Morrison's name to the wall," Lisa said, holding up the metal plate. "He died fighting to protect the colony. He deserves to be remembered." Captain Hamilton shook his head firmly. "Private Morrison died in an industrial accident caused by equipment failure. His name is already on the appropriate memorial for accident victims. Your continued fantasy stories dishonor his memory and disrespect his family. Lisa felt her face burn with shame and anger. She looked around at the crowd and saw people nodding in agreement with the captain. Some were filming the confrontation with their phones, probably planning to post it online for entertainment. She wanted to explain what really happened, wanted to make them understand that Jake had died as a hero, not as a victim of faulty equipment. The aliens killed him, Lisa said, her voice getting louder. He was murdered by creatures that are probably planning to come back and kill all of us. You need to listen to me. Captain Hamilton gestured to two military police officers who had been standing nearby. They moved toward Lisa with calm, professional expressions. The crowd was getting larger now, attracted by the drama. Lisa could hear people whispering about the crazy veteran who thought she fought aliens. "Marine Martinez, you are disrupting a solemn ceremony," Captain Hamilton announced. "These fantasies of yours are harmful to military morale and disrespectful to genuine war heroes. I'm ordering you to leave immediately." The military police officers took Lisa by the arms and guided her away from the memorial wall. She did not resist, but she could hear the crowd talking about her as they walked. Someone in the audience said loudly enough for everyone to hear that the military needed to do a better job screening people for mental health problems before sending them on missions. The video of Lisa's removal from the ceremony was uploaded to social media within an hour. By the end of the day, it had been shared thousands of times with mocking comments. People made jokes about Marines who could not tell the difference between equipment failures and alien invasions. Someone created a meme using a picture of Lisa's face with text saying, "I fought aliens and all I got was this psychiatric evaluation." The internet mockery was worse than anything she had experienced face to face. People who had never served in the military, never been in combat, never risked their lives for anything were making jokes about her mental health. They shared the video with laughing emojis and comments about how the military was full of crazy people who could not handle stress. But while the public mocked Lisa Martinez, classified reports were circulating in secure government facilities. Satellite images from Kepler 442b showed structures that had not been there before the mining colony was established. Deep space monitoring stations had detected unusual energy signatures coming from that region of space. Radio telescopes were picking up organized signals that did not match any known human technology. General Patricia Hughes reviewed these reports in her Pentagon office, comparing them with the official account of the Kepler 442b incident. The timeline did not make sense. Equipment failures did not explain the energy readings. Gas leaks did not account for the new structures visible in satellite photos. Something had happened on that colony, something that the official investigation had either missed or chosen to ignore. Lisa continued her daily routine despite the public humiliation. Every morning she ran 10 miles through the city streets. Every afternoon she practiced combat techniques at a private gym where the owner let her train for free out of respect for veterans. Her movements had changed since Kepler 442b. She was faster than before, more fluid in her motions. The techniques she had developed fighting the aliens made her seem almost superhuman to other people at the gym. When people asked her about her unusual fighting style, Lisa would just say that combat against superior opponents had taught her things that normal training could not. She did not mention the aliens anymore, not to strangers. But she continued to prepare for their return, even though she was the only person on Earth who believed they were coming. 1 year after returning from Kepler 442b, Lisa Martinez had hit rock bottom. The Marine Corps had processed her discharge on psychological grounds, ending her military career permanently. She now worked security at Westfield Shopping Center, walking the same halls every day and watching for shoplifters and troublemakers. The job paid barely enough to cover rent on her small apartment, and her combat skills felt wasted on teenagers trying to steal candy. Her relationship with Amy Rodriguez was falling apart. Amy had tried to be supportive for months, but the constant stress was too much. She worked long shifts at the hospital, dealing with real emergencies and saving actual lives. Coming home to hear Lisa talk about alien invasions and government conspiracies made her feel like she was living with two different people. The Lisa she had fallen in love with seemed to be disappearing, replaced by someone obsessed with impossible enemies. Why can't you just admit it was a hallucination and move on with your life? Amy had asked the night before, tears in her eyes. I love you, but I can't keep pretending that any of this makes sense. The doctors know what they're talking about. The military knows what happened. Everyone knows except you. Lisa had not answered because there was nothing to say. She knew what she had experienced on Kepler 442b was real. She knew the aliens existed and would return. But she also knew that insisting on the truth was destroying everything else in her life. Amy deserved better than a girlfriend who could not let go of traumatic memories and move forward. The breaking point came during a veteran support group meeting at the community center. Lisa attended these sessions reluctantly, mainly because Dr. Brooks had recommended them as part of her ongoing treatment. Most of the discussions focused on adjusting to civilian life and dealing with common problems like unemployment and relationship issues. Lisa usually sat quietly and listened, not wanting to share her story with people who would just think she was crazy. That night was different because there was a new member in the group. Sergeant Tony Kim had recently returned from AI deployment to Titan 7, one of the mining stations in the outer solar system. He looked nervous as he introduced himself to the circle of veterans, his hands shaking slightly as he spoke. I'm having trouble with what happened out there, Tony said, his voice barely above a whisper. The official report says it was equipment failure, but I know what I saw. I know what killed my squad. The group leader, a retired Army major named Bill Cooper, nodded encouragingly. Sometimes our memories of traumatic events can seem very real, even when they don't match the official records. It's important to remember that trauma can affect how we process experiences. Tony shook his head firmly. No, sir, this wasn't trauma. These things came out of nowhere. They were tall and thin, covered in dark armor. They moved faster than anything human, and their weapons fired energy beams that cut right through our equipment. Lisa felt her heart stop. She looked across the circle at Tony Kim, studying his face carefully. He was describing the same creatures she had fought on Kepler 442b. Every detail matched exactly, down to the way their armor seemed to absorb light, and the clicking sounds they made when communicating. The other group members immediately began the usual responses. They talked about how stress could create vivid false memories. They suggested that Tony speak with his doctor about medication for hallucinations. They offered support and understanding while making it clear that they did not believe his story was real. Tony's shoulders slumped as he listened to their well-meaning advice. Lisa could see the same defeated expression she had worn for months after returning from her own mission. He was experiencing the same isolation and doubt that had nearly destroyed her sanity. After the meeting ended, Lisa approached Tony carefully. She waited until the other members had left before speaking, not wanting to create another public scene like the one at the memorial ceremony. Sergeant Kim, she said quietly, I'd like to talk to you about what you experienced on Titan 7. Tony looked at her suspiciously. Are you going to tell me it was a hallucination too? Lisa shook her head. No, I'm going to tell you about Kepler 442b and what I fought there. I think we encountered the same enemy. They talked for 3 hours in the empty community center, comparing their experiences in detail. Every aspect of their stories matched perfectly. The alien creatures used identical tactics on both colonies. Their weapons created the same distinctive, humming sound before firing. Their armor had the same light-absorbing properties. Most importantly, both Lisa and Tony had witnessed larger alien ships in the distance during their battles. Tony revealed something that made Lisa's blood run cold. 3 other soldiers from different locations had contacted him privately after, hearing rumors about his story. All of them claimed similar encounters with the same alien creatures. All of them had been officially dismissed as suffering from hallucinations or trauma-induced false memories. There's a pattern here, Lisa said, her mind racing with possibilities. These weren't random attacks, they're testing us, learning about our capabilities and responses. That night, Lisa made a decision that would change everything. She could not continue living in isolation while the alien threat grew larger. If the government would not listen to individual reports, maybe they would pay attention to organized evidence from multiple sources. She broke into her former Marine base using security codes provided by Sergeant Maria Santos, one of the few people who still believed her story. Maria had become suspicious of the official reports after noticing inconsistencies in the casualty records from various outer colony missions. Too many soldiers were dying in equipment failures and industrial accidents for it to be coincidental. The classified files Lisa accessed painted a terrifying picture. Reports of alien encounters spanned the last 2 years, affecting colonies and military outposts throughout human space. Each incident was individually dismissed and covered up, but when viewed together, they showed a clear pattern of escalating alien activity. Most disturbing were the technical analysis reports. Government scientists had recovered alien technology from several attack sites, despite official claims that no evidence existed. The weapons were far more advanced than anything in human arsenals. The materials used in alien armor could not be reproduced with current human manufacturing techniques. Worst of all, the analysis suggested that the aliens had been deliberately restraining themselves during these encounters, using only a fraction of their apparent technological capabilities. Lisa copied everything she could onto portable drives before escaping the base. As she drove home through the empty streets, she realized that her fight with the aliens on Kepler 442b had been more significant than she had understood. She had not just survived an encounter with scouts. She had defeated a testing unit that was evaluating human military effectiveness. Her victory had probably forced the aliens to reassess their invasion timeline. The government knew the truth but was hiding it for reasons she could not understand. Maybe they were afraid of causing panic. Maybe they were secretly developing countermeasures. Or maybe they were just too proud to admit they had been wrong about the dismissed soldiers who had actually been humanity's first line of defense against an alien threat. Whatever their reasons, Lisa could not wait for official recognition anymore. The aliens were coming in greater numbers, and Earth's military was completely unprepared for the reality of alien warfare. Someone had to organize the soldiers who actually understood the enemy. Someone had to prepare humanity for a war that most people did not even know was beginning. Lisa Martinez and Tony Kim met again 3 days after their first conversation, this time in a diner on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Tony had made contact with the other soldiers he had mentioned, and he brought disturbing news. The pattern of alien encounters was bigger than either of them had imagined. Petty Officer Chris Wang from the Navy was stationed on Europa when his unit got hit, Tony explained over coffee. Same creatures, same tactics. His entire squad was wiped out except for him and one other sailor. The Navy listed it as a reactor malfunction. Lisa stirred her coffee thoughtfully. What about the others? Staff Sergeant Nicole Foster was Air Force Intelligence, stationed on a monitoring post near Pluto. She says her facility detected alien ships before they were attacked. The official report blamed solar interference for the equipment readings and listed the attack as a terrorist incident. The fourth soldier was Corporal Danny Stone from Army Special Forces. His unit had been providing security for a research station when the aliens attacked. Danny had managed to kill 3 of the creatures using improvised explosive devices before the rest of his squad arrived. The Army had classified the entire incident and transferred Danny to a desk job with orders never to discuss the mission. Lisa realized they were dealing with something much larger than isolated scouting missions. The aliens were systematically probing human defenses throughout the solar system, testing responses and gathering intelligence. Each attack was designed to look like an accident or equipment failure, allowing them to operate without triggering a coordinated human response. We need to meet face to face, Lisa said. All of us together. If we're going to figure this out, we need to share everything we know. Tony arranged for the meeting to take place at an abandoned warehouse in an industrial district where his cousin had once worked. The building was scheduled for demolition, making it perfect for their purposes. Lisa arrived first, checking the area for surveillance and escape routes. Her Marine training had taught her to always have a backup plan. Chris Wang arrived next, a quiet man with intelligent eyes who carried himself like someone used to being underwater for long periods. He had brought detailed technical drawings of the alien weapons he had observed, sketched from memory with precise engineering accuracy. The weapons were clearly based on energy projection principles that human science barely understood. Nicole Foster came third, carrying a briefcase full of analysis reports she had compiled before being transferred away from intelligence work. She was a small woman with sharp features and the kind of focused intensity that made her seem larger than her actual size. Her reports showed patterns in deep space monitoring data that suggested massive alien ship movements in the outer solar system. Danny Stone was the last to arrive, and Lisa understood immediately why he was Special Forces. He moved like a predator, scanning for threats and defensive positions automatically. He had brought weapons and surveillance equipment, turning their meeting into a proper tactical planning session. "Before we start," Danny said, setting up electronic countermeasures around the warehouse, "everyone needs to understand that we're probably being watched. The government knows we're talking to each other. They know we're sharing information they want kept secret." As if to prove his point, Chris mentioned that Navy investigators had visited his apartment twice in the past week, asking questions about his mental health and suggesting that continued discussion of classified incidents could result in criminal charges. Nicole had been followed by unmarked cars for the past month. Tony's family had received visits from federal agents warning them about associating with unstable veterans. Despite the pressure, the 5 soldiers began building their network systematically. Lisa shared the classified files she had copied from the Marine base, while Nicole provided analysis showing that alien activity was increasing in both frequency and scope. Chris contributed technical intelligence about alien capabilities, and Danny offered tactical expertise for organizing resistance operations. Their investigation revealed that the government's policy of denial and cover-up was creating a dangerous situation. Military units throughout human space were being slaughtered by enemies they did not understand and were not trained to fight. Conventional weapons and tactics were proving completely ineffective against alien technology and strategies. The worst part is that we're the only ones who know how to fight them, Lisa said during one of their planning sessions. "Each of us survived encounters that killed our entire units. We learned their weaknesses through actual combat experience. But instead of using that knowledge, the military is pretending we're crazy." Danny had begun developing training protocols based on Lisa's successful combat techniques from Kepler 442b. The abandoned warehouse became their unofficial headquarters, equipped with exercise areas and tactical planning facilities. He taught the others how to move unpredictably to avoid alien targeting systems and how to use improvised weapons that could penetrate alien armor. The most important discovery came when Nicole's intelligence contacts detected gravitational anomalies near Jupiter. The readings matched theoretical models for faster-than-light travel, suggesting that a massive alien fleet was gathering in the outer solar system. The signatures were far larger than anything that could be explained by scouting missions or testing operations. "They're preparing for a full invasion," Nicole explained, showing them the classified sensor data. "These readings indicate ships larger than anything humans have ever built. We're not dealing with advanced scouts anymore. This is a military force capable of conquering entire star systems." Chris used his Navy connections to gather additional intelligence about unusual activities on outer colonies. Supply shipments were being redirected to unknown destinations. Communication blackouts were becoming more frequent. Most troubling, several mining stations had stopped responding to routine check-ins without any explanation from colonial authorities. The network expanded carefully as more dismissed soldiers came forward with similar experiences. Each new member had to be vetted thoroughly to ensure they were not government agents sent to infiltrate the group. Lisa developed protocols for confirming alien encounter stories, checking details that had never been made public against the experiences of verified survivors. Within 3 months, their network included 17 soldiers from all branches of the military. Each had been discredited and marginalized for reporting alien encounters, but together they represented humanity's most experienced alien fighters. They had learned tactics and techniques that conventional military doctrine could not provide. The group faced constant harassment from government agents who monitored their activities and pressured their families. Several members were arrested on minor charges that were later dropped. Others received job offers in remote locations that would separate them from the network. The message was clear: stop investigating alien activity or face serious consequences. But the harassment only confirmed what they already suspected. The government knew the alien threat was real and was actively suppressing information about it. Whether this was motivated by a desire to prevent panic or by more sinister reasons, the result was the same. Humanity was completely unprepared for what was coming. Lisa stood in the warehouse one evening looking at maps and intelligence reports spread across multiple tables. Her small network of discredited soldiers had become Earth's only real defense against an alien invasion that most people did not even know was approaching. They had better intelligence, superior tactics, and actual combat experience against the enemy. The irony was overwhelming. The government that had dismissed them as delusional was about to discover just how real their alien enemies were. When that happened, these 17 outcasts might be the only thing standing between humanity and complete destruction. 8 months into their investigation, Lisa's underground network made a discovery that changed everything they thought they knew about the alien encounters. Nicole Foster had been analyzing intercepted communications from deep space monitoring stations when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The attacks weren't random, Nicole announced during an emergency meeting at the warehouse. Look at these communication logs. Every single alien encounter happened exactly 24 hours after our forces detected unusual energy signatures in those sectors. She spread the documents across their planning table, showing a timeline that revealed the terrifying truth. The aliens had been monitoring human communication networks, watching how military forces responded to their presence. Each encounter was carefully orchestrated to test specific aspects of human military capabilities. Danny Stone studied the patterns with his Special Forces analytical training. They were evaluating our weapons, our tactics, our response times. Each attack was designed to gather specific intelligence about human combat effectiveness. The revelation was worse than they had imagined. The aliens were not just randomly attacking human settlements. They were conducting systematic intelligence, gathering operations, studying humanity like scientists studying laboratory animals. Every dismissed soldier in their network had actually participated in what amounted to alien military exercises. Lisa felt sick as she realized the implications. My fight on Kepler 442b wasn't just about surviving an alien scouting mission. I was being tested. They wanted to see how effective a single human soldier could be against their forces. Chris Wang pulled out technical analysis reports he had obtained from Navy intelligence sources. According to these classified studies, the alien weapons we encountered were deliberately set to reduced power levels. They could have killed us all instantly, but they were measuring our defensive capabilities instead. The most disturbing evidence came from recovered alien technology that officially did not exist. Government scientists had been studying alien equipment for almost 2 years, learning that their technology was far more advanced than initial assessments had suggested. The armor Lisa had managed to penetrate was designed to be vulnerable to the specific tactics she had used. The aliens had been testing whether humans could adapt and innovate under extreme pressure. They were surprised by our results, Nicole continued, reading from classified analysis reports. Especially Lisa's performance on Kepler 442b. The elimination of an entire alien testing unit by a single human soldier was not within their predicted parameters. Lisa remembered the fight in vivid detail. The way the aliens had seemed confused when she started using improvised tactics, how they had hesitated when she began using their own technology against them. She had assumed it was just good luck and desperate creativity, but now she understood that she had exceeded their expectations for human adaptability. The network discovered that certain high-ranking military officials were fully aware of the alien threat, but were following orders to suppress information from the highest levels of government. The policy appeared to be preventing public panic while secretly developing countermeasures, but it was having catastrophic unintended consequences. Sergeant Maria Santos, Lisa's contact inside the Marines, provided the most alarming intelligence during a covert meeting in a downtown parking garage. She had been monitoring classified communications about recent outer colony activities. Alien encounters have increased by 300% in the past 2 months, Maria reported, looking nervously around the empty garage. Multiple colonies have gone completely dark. Deep space sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward Earth. Whatever they were testing for, they've apparently learned what they needed to know. The government's secret alien task force was woefully unprepared for what was coming. Their countermeasures were based on theoretical analysis rather than actual combat experience. Their weapon systems were designed to fight enemies they had never encountered. Most critically, they had dismissed the only humans who actually understood how to fight aliens effectively. Lisa's network realized they were looking at classified battle plans that showed the military expected to fight aliens the same way they would fight human enemies. Conventional formations, standard weapons, traditional tactics, everything that had proven completely useless during the actual alien encounters. "They're going to get slaughtered," Danny said grimly, studying the official defense plans. "These strategies assume the aliens will behave like human soldiers. They don't account for speed, advanced technology, or completely different tactical thinking." The network began making desperate preparations for what they now understood was an imminent full-scale invasion. They stockpiled weapons and supplies in hidden caches throughout the Los Angeles area. More importantly, they worked to document and refine the combat techniques that had proven effective against aliens. Lisa spent weeks writing detailed tactical manuals based on her experience fighting the aliens on Kepler 442b. She described how to recognize alien movement patterns, how to use their own technology against them, and how to exploit weaknesses in their armor and weapons. The manual was copied and distributed to every member of their network, creating humanity's first real guide to alien warfare. The most critical discovery came when Chris Wang's Navy contacts detected gravitational distortions indicating massive, faster-than-light travel near the edge of the solar system. The signatures were consistent with an invasion fleet of unprecedented size, far larger than anything the secret government task force was prepared to handle. "We're looking at hundreds of ships," Chris reported during their final planning meeting, before the invasion began. "These aren't scouts or testing units. This is a military force designed to conquer an entire planet." Nicole's intelligence analysis suggested that the aliens had completed their evaluation of human capabilities and determined that Earth could be conquered with acceptable losses. The testing phase was over. The real war was about to begin. Lisa stood in the warehouse surrounded by maps, weapons, and intelligence reports that painted a picture of humanity's greatest crisis. Her network of 17 dismissed soldiers possessed the only real knowledge of how to fight the coming invasion. They had superior intelligence about alien capabilities, proven tactics for countering alien advantages, and actual combat experience against the enemy. The government that had spent 2 years calling them delusional was about to discover that their impossible enemies were very real. When the alien invasion began, these discredited veterans would be humanity's best hope for survival. They had been tested by alien forces and proven themselves capable of the impossible. Now they would have to do it again, but this time the stakes were not just their own survival. They were fighting for the future of human civilization itself. The aliens had tested them individually and found them surprisingly capable. Soon they would learn what humans could accomplish when they worked together against a common threat. Lisa looked at her team of outcasts and misfits, knowing that history would either remember them as the people who saved humanity or forget them entirely if they failed. Either way, they were the only ones who truly understood what was coming and what it would take to survive it. The invasion began on a Tuesday morning with what news reports initially described as the most spectacular meteor shower in recorded history. Lisa Martinez was drinking coffee in the warehouse when the first reports came through on emergency radio frequencies. Hundreds of bright streaks were falling from the sky across every continent, creating a beautiful light display that people around the world stopped to photograph and admire. Within 30 minutes, the first ground reports revealed the horrible truth. The meteors were not burning rocks from space. They were alien landing craft, sleek vessels that struck the Earth with precision accuracy and immediately began disgorging troops and equipment. The beautiful light show had been the opening move of a carefully planned military invasion. Lisa's network mobilized immediately, using communication protocols they had established months earlier. Danny Stone coordinated their response from a backup command center they had prepared in an abandoned subway tunnel. Nicole Foster monitored military communications to track the government's response. Chris Wang used his Navy contacts to gather intelligence about alien landing sites near major ports and naval facilities. The early reports were catastrophic. Military bases around the world were being overrun by alien forces that moved faster and hit harder than anything human defenders had encountered. Conventional weapons were proving almost useless against alien armor and shields. Worse, the aliens seemed to understand human tactics perfectly, countering every defensive strategy with devastating effectiveness. Lisa led her team to the first alien landing site in their area, a park in downtown Los Angeles where 3 alien craft had landed and established a perimeter. Police and National Guard units were already engaged in a hopeless battle against creatures that seemed almost invulnerable to human weapons. "Remember everything we practiced," Lisa told her team, as they approached the combat zone. "They're fast, but they move in patterns. Their weapons have a charging delay before firing. Use that against them." The difference was immediately obvious. While government forces were being slaughtered by enemies they did not understand, Lisa's team moved through the alien positions like they belonged there. They used the combat techniques developed during months of training, exploiting weaknesses that only actual combat veterans knew existed. Lisa rolled under an alien energy weapon and came up behind the creature, using a modified combat knife to find the weak point where its helmet met its armor. Black blood sprayed as the alien fell, just like on Kepler 442b. Her team spread out using coordinated tactics, each member targeting specific alien positions based on predetermined plans. Tony Kim used improvised explosives to destroy an alien heavy weapon that had been pinning down a squad of Marines. Nicole Foster coordinated intelligence gathering, identifying alien command structures and priority targets. Danny Stone led assault teams that moved with the kind of precision that came from understanding exactly how their enemies fought. The most important element was that Lisa's team was actually winning, while military units across the city were being destroyed by superior alien technology. This small group of dismissed veterans was achieving significant victories against the same enemy. Videos of their successes began circulating on social media, showing the world that the aliens could be defeated. Meanwhile, Colonel Frank Peters found himself commanding a defense sector that was being systematically destroyed by alien forces. The same officer who had dismissed Lisa's original report as hallucinations now faced the reality of enemies he had refused to believe existed. His conventional military tactics were completely ineffective against aliens who moved unpredictably and employed technology his forces could not counter. Peters watched his casualty reports climb, as unit after unit was wiped out by alien attacks. His weapons could not penetrate alien armor. His communications were being jammed by alien technology. His soldiers were being killed by enemies who seemed to anticipate every tactical decision he made. The government's secret alien task force was failing even more catastrophically than regular military units. Their theoretical preparations proved worthless against the reality of alien warfare. Weapon systems designed based on speculation rather than experience could not damage alien equipment. Battle plans created by analysts who had never seen an alien were resulting in complete tactical disasters. President Katherine Clark was operating from a mobile command center as Washington, D.C. fell to alien forces. The capital city had been one of the primary targets, with multiple landing sites established around key government facilities. Secret Service agents were fighting running battles through the streets, trying to keep the president alive while the seat of American power crumbled around them. Emergency communications were bringing reports of similar disasters from around the world. London was burning. Tokyo was under siege. Moscow had gone completely dark after alien forces overran the Kremlin. Every major population center was being attacked simultaneously by an invasion force that seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum effect. Within 48 hours, it became clear that Earth's official military response was failing completely. Traditional armed forces were being annihilated by enemies they could not effectively fight. Command structures were collapsing as alien forces targeted leadership facilities with surgical precision. Communication networks were failing as alien jamming technology disrupted human coordination efforts. But scattered reports were reaching the highest levels of government about small groups of human fighters who were achieving remarkable success against the alien invasion. These units moved differently, fought differently, and seemed to understand alien capabilities in ways that regular military forces did not. Intelligence analysts studying combat footage noticed that the successful human units were using tactics that had never been taught in any military academy. They moved in patterns designed to counter alien advantages. They used weapons and techniques that seemed specifically adapted to fight non-human enemies. Most importantly, they were actually killing aliens in significant numbers while suffering minimal casualties themselves. Lisa's network had become the most effective fighting force on Earth, not because they had better equipment or superior numbers, but because they understood their enemy. Months of preparation based on actual combat experience had given them advantages that no amount of theoretical planning could provide. As Lisa stood in the ruins of the Los Angeles park, watching alien forces retreat from positions they had held for hours, she realized that humanity's survival depended on convincing the government to listen to people they had spent years dismissing as delusional. The same officials who had called her crazy now needed her expertise to save human civilization. The aliens had tested humanity and found them wanting, but they had made one critical error in their calculations. They had dismissed the humans who had actually fought them successfully, assuming that government suppression had eliminated the threat posed by experienced alien fighters. Now they were discovering that humans who learned from combat experience could be far more dangerous than theoretical analysis had predicted. The real war was just beginning, and Lisa Martinez was about to become the most important person on Earth. As Earth's conventional defenses crumbled under the alien assault, reports of Lisa Martinez's underground network's unprecedented success began reaching the highest levels of the surviving government. Emergency meetings were taking place in secure bunkers as military leaders struggled to understand how a small group of dismissed veterans was achieving the only significant victories against the invasion force. General Patricia Hughes, one of the few senior officers who had quietly questioned the official dismissal of alien encounter reports, presented the shocking evidence to President Katherine Clark during a crisis briefing in the Mobile Command Center. Combat footage showed Lisa's team moving through alien positions with tactical precision that seemed almost supernatural to observers who had never fought non-human enemies. "Madam President, these individuals have eliminated more alien forces in 3 days than our entire military has managed since the invasion began," General Hughes reported, her voice strained with exhaustion and disbelief. "They're using tactics and techniques that appear specifically designed to counter alien advantages." President Clark studied the footage in stunned silence. She watched Lisa Martinez lead a coordinated assault against an alien command post that had resisted conventional military attacks for hours. The team moved like they understood alien behavior patterns, exploiting weaknesses that regular forces had not even recognized existed. "Who are these people?" the president asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. "They're the soldiers we dismissed as delusional, Madam President," General Hughes replied quietly. Marine Corporal Lisa Martinez was the first. She claimed to have fought aliens on Kepler 442b over a year ago. "We discharged her on psychological grounds." The president felt a cold chill of recognition. She remembered the briefings about problem veterans who claimed alien encounters. The military had assured her that these individuals were suffering from trauma-induced hallucinations and posed no credible threat to security. Now it appeared that these supposedly delusional soldiers were the only people on Earth who actually knew how to fight the invasion. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, operating from their own secure facility, were facing the complete collapse of conventional military resistance. Every strategy they had developed for defending Earth was proving useless against enemies who fought unlike any human adversary. Their advanced weapons systems could not penetrate alien defenses. Their tactical doctrine was designed for opponents who followed recognizable patterns of warfare. General Richard Stone, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, made the most difficult admission of his military career during an emergency video conference with the president. Our forces are being systematically destroyed because we're fighting an enemy we don't understand. These civilians appear to possess combat knowledge that our entire military establishment lacks. The decision to seek out Lisa Martinez was not made easily. President Clark's advisors argued that approaching dismissed veterans would be an admission of catastrophic institutional failure. The Secret Service expressed concerns about the president's safety when dealing with individuals who had been classified as psychologically unstable. Military leaders worried about the precedent of bypassing the chain of command to consult with discharged personnel. But the alternative was the complete conquest of Earth by an alien force that conventional military power could not stop. Every hour of delay meant more human casualties and the loss of additional territory to the invaders. The president authorized Secret Service Director Carl Murphy to lead a dangerous mission through alien-controlled territory to reach Lisa Martinez and her team. The presidential motorcade fought its way through the ruins of Los Angeles, using intelligence provided by Lisa's network to avoid the heaviest alien concentrations. Secret Service agents had been hastily briefed on alien combat tactics based on reports from the successful resistance fighters. Even with this preparation, the journey was harrowing as alien patrols attacked the convoy multiple times. Lisa received word of the president's approach while leading a mission to evacuate civilians from a hospital that had been surrounded by alien forces. Her initial reaction was suspicion that the approach was a government trap designed to capture or eliminate her network. The timing seemed too convenient, coming just as their success was becoming impossible to ignore. Danny Stone, who had maintained contacts within the special operations community, confirmed that the approach was legitimate. "It's real, Lisa. They're desperate. The entire conventional military is failing, and we're the only ones winning fights against these things." The meeting took place in the basement of the warehouse that had served as the network's headquarters. President Katherine Clark, flanked by her remaining security detail and military advisors, descended into the underground facility where dismissed veterans had been planning humanity's defense for months. The contrast was stark and unmistakable. Lisa Martinez, covered in alien blood and carrying weapons modified with captured alien technology, stood before the most powerful person in the world, who was now essentially powerless to save her nation through conventional means. The president wore a clean suit and carried the authority of the American government. Lisa wore combat gear and carried the knowledge of how to actually fight aliens effectively. President Clark looked around the basement command center, seeing maps marked with alien positions, weapons caches organized for guerrilla warfare, and intelligence reports that were far more accurate than anything her government had produced. These dismissed soldiers had been preparing for exactly this scenario, while official forces had been training to fight the wrong kind of enemy. "Marine Martinez," the president began, then corrected herself. "I understand you're no longer officially a Marine, but I want to offer you something. The government made a terrible mistake in not believing your reports. We need your help to save our country." Lisa studied the president's face, looking for signs of deception or political calculation. She saw exhaustion, fear, and genuine desperation. The woman who led the most powerful nation on Earth was admitting that her entire military establishment had been wrong about the most important threat humanity had ever faced. "What are you offering?" Lisa asked, though she already suspected the answer. President Clark took a deep breath before making an offer that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. A field commission as Brigadier General with full authority to coordinate Earth's resistance using any methods you deem necessary. Complete access to all military resources that remain under government control. Most importantly, official recognition that you and your team were right about everything. The apology that followed was unprecedented in American political history. The President of the United States formally apologized to a discharged veteran for institutional failures that had nearly resulted in the conquest of human civilization. She acknowledged that government pride and institutional arrogance had almost doomed the species by dismissing the warnings of the only people who actually understood the alien threat. Lisa looked around at her team of dismissed outcasts, knowing that this moment would define the future of human resistance. She could accept the commission and try to save a civilization that had rejected her, or she could refuse and watch humanity fall to enemies she knew how to defeat. The choice was simple, because it had never really been about personal vindication. It had always been about protecting humanity from threats that others refused to see. Lisa Martinez, the woman they said lied about combat, was about to become the most important military leader in human history. Lisa Martinez accepted the field commission not for personal vindication, but because she understood that her network represented humanity's best hope for survival against an enemy that conventional military thinking could not defeat. Within hours of the president's offer, she was coordinating a global resistance movement that would either save human civilization or die trying. The transformation was immediate and dramatic. Lisa's tactical knowledge, dismissed as delusion just days earlier, became the foundation for humanity's entire defense strategy. Her combat manual, written in the basement of an abandoned warehouse, was transmitted to surviving military units worldwide through encrypted communications networks that the aliens had not yet learned to penetrate. President Clark's Motorcade became a mobile command center from which Lisa directed operations across multiple continents. The irony was not lost on anyone involved, that the most important military decisions in human history were being made from vehicles racing through alien-controlled territory, protected by tactics developed by soldiers the government had tried to silence. The impact of Lisa's strategies was felt immediately on battlefields around the world. Human forces that had been suffering catastrophic losses began achieving victories using techniques specifically designed to counter alien advantages. Her methods emphasized mobility over firepower, adaptation over rigid doctrine, and understanding enemy psychology over traditional tactical thinking. Colonel Frank Peters, the officer who had dismissed Lisa's original report about Kepler 442b, now found himself serving under her command in the Los Angeles sector. The reversal of their positions was complete and undeniable. Peters had been reduced to commanding scattered remnants of conventional forces that were being systematically destroyed by enemies he still did not fully understand. The moment of his public acknowledgement came during a video conference with resistance leaders worldwide. Peters, his uniform dirty and his face haggard from days of losing battles, looked directly into the camera and spoke words that would be remembered long after the war ended. "I was wrong about Marine Martinez and everything she reported," Peters said, his voice carrying across resistance networks on every continent. "I let institutional pride and personal prejudice blind me to the truth. Because of my failure to listen, good soldiers died, and humanity nearly fell to enemies we should have been preparing to fight." The video of Peters' admission became a symbol of institutional failure and personal redemption that resonated throughout the human resistance. It represented the moment when official authority acknowledged the superior wisdom of dismissed outcasts, validating every soldier who had been silenced for reporting inconvenient truths. Lisa's network members were rapidly promoted and deployed to coordinate regional resistance efforts worldwide. Tony Kim took command of Asian theater operations, using his experience fighting aliens on Titan VII to organize successful counterattacks against invasion forces in Japan and China. Nicole Foster coordinated global intelligence operations, her analytical skills finally applied to the alien threat she had been studying in secret for months. Chris Wang handled naval operations, working with surviving submarine fleets to disrupt alien supply lines and coastal installations. His technical knowledge of alien weapon systems, gained through actual combat experience, allowed human naval forces to develop effective countermeasures for the first time since the invasion began. Danny Stone became the primary trainer for special forces units worldwide, teaching elite soldiers the guerrilla tactics and alien fighting techniques that had proven successful in urban combat. His training programs, based on real battlefield experience rather than theoretical speculation, transformed conventional special operations into effective alien fighting units. The most significant change was in how human forces approached alien warfare psychologically. Lisa's methods taught soldiers to see aliens not as invincible technological superiors, but as opponents with exploitable weaknesses and predictable behavioral patterns. This shift in mindset was as important as any tactical innovation, giving human fighters the confidence to engage enemies they had previously feared. As the tide of the invasion began to turn, alien forces found themselves facing unexpected resistance. from humans who fought unlike any enemy they had studied during their testing phase. The careful intelligence gathering they had conducted through probe attacks had not prepared them for humans who adapted and learned from each encounter. Lisa stood in the ruins of downtown Los Angeles, watching alien ships retreat from positions they had held for days. The creatures that had once seemed invincible were withdrawing in the face of human tactics they had not anticipated. Their technological advantages remained, but they were no longer sufficient to guarantee victory against opponents who understood their capabilities and limitations. The final validation came when alien communication intercepts revealed their growing concern about human adaptation rates. The invaders had expected to face the same types of opponents they had encountered during their testing operations. Instead, they were fighting humans who had learned from those early defeats and developed specifically effective countermeasures. President Clark's decision to seek out dismissed veterans had fundamentally changed the character of human resistance. What had begun as a hopeless defense against superior alien technology had become a learning war, where human adaptability was proving more valuable than technological advantage. The symbolic moment came when Lisa addressed a joint session of Congress via satellite link from the Mobile Command Center. The same political leaders who had ignored warnings about alien threats now listened intently as she presented plans for humanity's continued defense against what was clearly a long-term threat. The alien invasion was not defeated by superior weapons or overwhelming force, Lisa told the assembled representatives. It was turned back by individuals who saw the truth when institutions refused to believe them. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt and learn from experience, even when that experience challenges everything we thought we knew. President Clark's closing statement to the world acknowledged that humanity's survival had depended on listening to people who had been marginalized and dismissed by established authority. The president emphasized that the greatest threat to human civilization had not been alien technology, but institutional arrogance that refused to acknowledge uncomfortable truths. Our survival was secured not by the military-industrial complex or government planning, but by individual soldiers who maintained their integrity in the face of official disbelief, President Clark announced. Lisa Martinez and her team represent the best of human character, the courage to stand by truth, even when standing alone. As alien forces withdrew to regroup in the outer solar system, Lisa knew that this victory was only the beginning of a longer conflict. The aliens would return with new strategies and improved understanding of human capabilities. But humanity was no longer the same species they had tested and found wanting. The woman they said lied about combat had become the architect of human survival, proving that sometimes the most important truths come from the most unlikely sources. Her vindication was complete, but more importantly, humanity had learned the value of listening to individuals who see dangers that institutions prefer to ignore. Lisa Martinez stood as a symbol of human adaptability and the power of truth to overcome institutional failure. The presidential motorcade that had come to find her in humanity's darkest hour would be remembered as the moment when dismissed truth became the foundation for species survival.